All right. I tell you, I am excited. This is going to be an awesome day, great day, wonderful day, outstanding day. Welcome, welcome, and again I say welcome to the GMAP Broadcast Network. We are the number one faith-based, motivational, and inspirational broadcast platform in the country. We are located at gmap1.com. That's GMAP, the number one.com. We are encouraging all of you, stop by, visit, take a look around, show your love, care, concern, and support. And we appreciate each and every one of you that continuously stops by to see who it is and what it is that we're all about. Once again, welcome to the GMAP Broadcast Network, GMAP1.com. We are always excited. We are always grateful, honored, privileged, and blessed when we have the opportunity to have individuals stop by our broadcast network platform. We're always grateful when we have them share who they are, share what they're doing, share the blessings of the Lord. Today, we are grateful, double grateful, because we have a young man stopping by today who is here to share with you all of the wonderful things that God has blessed him with during his journey. And Mr. James Burd Brewster is here. I don't have a studio audience, so I just got to go, yay! They're practicing the safe aspect of doing this COVID thing, and
Sure.
how it is. But we take time out on today. James, God bless you. Welcome to the GMAP Broadcast Network. How are you?
Kevin, it is wonderful to be here, and thank you for reaching out to me after seeing my books on Facebook and asking me to be on your show. I am always happy to get in front of people and tell them about things I enjoy doing, which is writing these books and helping families be stronger families. So it's your show. Let's have at it. What can I do for you?
Woo! He said, "What can I do for you?" Well, just to get things started off accordingly, James, why don't you do me this favor? Introduce yourself. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you're from. Who is James Burd Brewster?
Well, Kevin, thank you very much. I happen to be the name James Bird is a Pennsylvania name. I come from apparently an early Pennsylvania family. Grew up with a lot of heirlooms in the house. I found out when I was 20 that these were all his heirlooms. I even have some of this guy's stuff. But I'm James Bird Brewster. I was raised in Albany, New York. I eventually went to college at the Coast Guard Academy in London, Connecticut, served a complete career in the Coast Guard. In the process of doing that, of course, I ended up in Wilmington, North Carolina with my ship, ended up going to a church down there, and a nosy youth pastor thought I should join their college and career class because he wanted me to meet a particular lady, and he wanted it to be very informal, and it was. And I met Katie Spivey that night. She had the most wonderful green eyes, and I could not take my eyes off her. If you meet her today, she's got blue eyes. She's never had green eyes, but I just could not take my eyes off of her. So we eventually married. This coming June, it'll be 41 years. We raised and homeschooled 5 children. There are 2 boys, a girl, and 2 boys in that order. And it's actually because of those first 2 boys that I eventually became an author and the owner of a publishing company. I do attend church, so you can tell that we're evangelical Christians. And as I said, we homeschooled our kids. We thought that was very valuable for us. So that's the brief background on me, if you don't mind. The reason why I got into stories and to writing books is that when my oldest 2, Ben and Luke, were 5 and 3.5, it became my time, father-son time, to put them to bed. And so I did that by telling them a series of stories about a fireman who helped out. I did that because I wanted to teach them that when they grow up, they're supposed to be aware that people have needs, and you're supposed to help them if you can. And of course, firefighters, and by that nature, all first responders do that by their own nature. They help out professionally. So we ended up with a series of stories where a firefighter and his team would go out and do a response. at the end of the story, they always were thanked for their service, which taught everyone good manners. The firefighter, the responders, always thanked God for some aspect of their rescue, which teaches children that God is an important part of people's lives. And then they were taught gratitude because our first responders would always just look them in the eye and say, glad to do it. And they'd swing their arm across their chest like Dudley Do-Right of the Canadian Mounties. And what happened was that the kids couldn't wait for the opportunity for them to swing their arm across their chest and say, glad to do it. So that was back in 1990, 91, excuse me. And we liked them so much, we wrote them down. And then fast forward to 2013, through a variety of circumstances, we decided we would write them. And we had some help with two writers associations, a local one, the Charles County's Writers Guild, started by Yvonne Medley. She taught me how to find an illustrator. And then I started attending the Maryland Writers Association chapter in Charles County, headed by Edna Troiano. And they just kept us motivated and going. And from their knowledge and the people we met, I became a published author. And then we decided to start our own publishing company and help other people publish their first books professionally. So that's me in a nutshell.
Wow. You know,
take a sip of water.
I am just so grateful. I'm honored that, of course, you have accepted the call to be this author. And of course, I am also honored that you have allowed the GMAP Broadcast Network to be a part of your journey. Now, you know, I just can't stress enough for those that don't know. Of course, James Burd Brewster is one of our featured authors on the GMAP Broadcast Network.
Thank you.
And of course, we are grateful for that alone. And of course, there are so many great publications that we intend to share, we intend to talk about. But one of the things that has really gotten my attention is the one titled Colorful. We're going to talk about that in just a few moments. And of course, we want you to continuously stop by our platform, visit the bookstore. Once you visit the bookstore, you can look at some of the covers that are placed from this awesome author, James Burd Brewster. It will take you to the necessary location to get more intimate information and details about the man, about the ministry, about the publications that he has been blessed with. You know, starting off with Colorful, why don't you, if you don't mind, James, tell us a little bit about this particular publication.
Talking about the tire swing?
I am talking about, well, we can go to tire swing. I was really focusing on Colorful, but we can go to a tire swing. That's okay. I like that. That's a good one to talk about.
Okay.
Let's talk about tire swing.
So if my understanding was that you saw a Facebook ad of mine that was promoting books that we published for Black History Month, specifically Francis Harper book up on top and a Matthew Henson book on exploring the North Pole, and this children's book called The Tire Swing. And when you contacted me about that, then we started talking about the rest of the collection that we have right here. The book, so I got started writing stories that were designed to help families develop father-son time. And I've been writing books for about 4 years and was talking to a waiter in a restaurant, and he mentioned he was a single dad and he couldn't find any father-son stories to read to his son. And then he commented that in the process of looking, he just couldn't find any good stories that showed families that were doing, that were functioning well together. And I said, that's an idea. I can do that. So I wrote a series of stories of a father and a son named after each other. I have a white series and a black series. It's Steve and Stevie is the black series, and Pete and Petey up here is the white series. I decided not to go with a blended family. I've got other books that have blended relationships. But in the Tire Swing, in all of the books, they show a functioning, intact family where the parents love each other and the children like each other. And if I could, let me read you just the first 2 pages of this book, The Tire Swing. Stevie Walker, Daddy said, what this yard needs is a tire swing. What would you think if we put one right there? Daddy pointed to a tall oak tree next to the driveway. The tree had a branch way up that was sticking out all by itself. I like it, Daddy, I said. My name is Stevie and I'm 7. Mom came outside. She said, there you are. Supper's almost ready. Then she saw Daddy looking at the tree. Steve, what are you doing? She asked. My daddy's name is Steve. I'm named after him, but everyone calls me Stevie. Darling, Daddy said, I'm thinking this tree would make a good tire swing. My mom's name is Kamisha, but Daddy always calls her Darling. Mom looked at the tree and said, that's a great idea. The kids will love it. Now, come in for supper. Then the story continues with how they discuss what they need to put up the tree. And each of the kids, there's an older brother and older sister, they chime in with some knowledge they have, and cooperatively they coordinate getting the things and putting up a tire swing. And of course, halfway through this, when they're all exhausted and frustrated with trying to get the line over the tall branch way up there, Mom and Nadia come out with milk and cookies. And so they take a break and have milk and cookies, and then it transgresses on like that.
Wow. You know, first of all, let me apologize to our viewers and listeners right now, because I was actually looking at another publication which was by another author. And,
okay.
And I was looking into it, and I actually had him on the screen. So I want to make sure that people understand that Colorful is not one of the publications that was written and provided to us from James Burd Brewster. So I want to publicly and personally apologize to you for that. But at the same time, I also want to thank God for the Chicago radio station, who are, just openly ready, willing, and able to chime us in as we are being aired also simultaneously on Chicago radio. We thank God for them. They're excited about what you're doing, and I too am excited about what you're doing. So again, we thank God for Mr. James Burd Brewster, one of our featured authors here on the GMAP Broadcast Network. As we continue to move forward, now that we've gotten that out of the way, you know, there's so many great publications that, James, you have been blessed to provide to our viewers and our listeners around the world. What are some of the other publications that you have been able to provide to the people around the world?
Thank you. You talk about being blessed. One of my sign-off features, I'm a member, I said, I'm on the board of directors of the Maryland Writers Association, and we do a lot of correspondence back and forth. And I always sign those emails by saying, keep writing because being creative is fun. And it really is. God is a creative being. He created us, created the world, and we mirror him through our creativity. And what's interesting about your listeners out there all have ideas in their head for books that they want to write, that they think they could write but aren't too sure they should. And what I found out is that once you get it down on paper and you start and you see your first book out there, then all of a sudden you go, oh, I could do this. Oh, I could do that. Oh. And what's fun for me is my ministry is helping people get their first book done so it looks really, really good. So when they give it to their parents say, hey, that's a great job, instead of, well, keep at it.
Right.
So in the process of doing this, I found out I can publish all kinds of books. And the books that you saw on the Facebook website were Tire Swing, and then the story of Matthew Henson. The title is A Negro Explorer at the North Pole, the personal account of the courage and tenacity of Matthew Alexander Henson in becoming the first Negro to reach the North Pole. You probably know this from your history, but for 18 years, Matthew Henson worked side by side with Robert Peary on each of his successive trips up into the Arctic to try and finally conquer the North Pole. I learned about Matthew Henson because we have a Matthew Henson Middle School in our area. I'm in Charles County, Maryland, and it turns out he was born here. It started from here. Also, Josiah Henson, when I mentioned Edna Troiano, the Charles County chapter president, she wrote a history of Josiah Henson. He's also from Charles County, and he was the model that Harriet Beecher Stowe used for Uncle Tom. So in talking to her about Josiah Henson, we said, is he related to the Matthew Henson at the school? And she said, no, he's a different guy. And so I looked him up and I came up with this. This is a fascinating account. It's a 12-year-old on up level book into adulthood for learning what it's like to go to the North Pole and just the stuff they went through to get there and how many times they almost nearly died. It's fascinating. The surprise at the end is when you read it, you'll catch on that that Matthew Henson, they had a process of pre-staging supplies up, and then the team would come forward and then a group would go forward, put more supplies up, and that's how they leapfrog their way up. That's one of the solutions they had for getting to the North Pole. And it turns out that he was part of the last party that leapfrogged supplies north, and they went beyond the North Pole. He actually got there first, and it was just absolutely the wrong thing at that part of history and time for him to do that, and it estranged him and Admiral Peary after that. But he really should get credit for being the first guy that got to the North Pole. It's a fascinating book.
Wow.
And then my wife is a poet, so she's always finding great things online to send to me and say, here, you ought to consider this person. And the reason why I published the Matthew Henson book is that in copyright law, if the author's been dead 70 years, their works can be republished by anyone who has access to the works. And once I realized you could do that, I began to look for books. And so my wife sent me the Frances Harper book, the titles of it. As you know, she was born in 1825 in Baltimore, so I'm interested in Maryland people. And she was born to free black parents, got schooling and education, and was obviously very bright and very energetic and very talented. She's credited with being the first African-American female published author in the United States. Wow. Her contemporaries were Harriet Tubman and Margaret Murray Washington, the wife of Booker T. Washington, and she helped establish the National Association of Colored Women. Do you have time? I can read one of her short poems?
Absolutely.
Okay. As you know, so she was a devout Christian woman, and this is called The Building. Build me a house, said the master, but not on the shifting sand. Mid the wreck and roars of tempest, a house that will firmly stand. I will bring thee windows of agates and gates of carbuncles bright, and thy fairest courts and portals shall be filled with love and light. Thou shalt build with fadeless rubies, all fashioned around the throne, a house that shall last forever, with Christ as the cornerstone.
Wow. Awesome.
That's by Frances E.W. Harper, and everything. So you can see the picture up here. All of these are available on our website at gladtodoit.net. And I'll explain how we got that glad to do it phrase.
Okay.
In a bit.
Wow, man, this is simply amazing. I am so grateful, and God has truly blessed you. You know what? Let me ask you this: how long has it been? I mean, how long have you been? I mean, I understand that there's a JW Publishing, and that's something that people can and will be blessed by. But when did you know, James, in your heart, in your spirit, that it was time to be the author that you have become?
Well, I'm very, very fortunate. I have a job with, when I finished my career in the Coast Guard, and we became empty nesters. Our last child, we joke about becoming empty nesters. Our last child went to the local community college, so we really didn't have an empty home. But we decided, my wife and I, that we would take a creative writing course at the local community college, and it was an Thursday evening 3-hour seminar. And so I'd take off around noon. We would drive to the area. We'd go to not a coffee shop, a tea place, and we had a little art gallery and a craft place, and we'd buy chocolate dipped pretzel sticks to take to the class for all the other kids. And we took this for a semester. We took this seminar together to reestablish our relationship. I come from a very bright family. They do clever, creative things. My aunt could write a poem at the drop of a hat. And I have a cousin who wrote 6 or 7 children's mystery type stories. And so I have at least a history of knowing that this is possible. That's when we got interested. We thought creative writing was neat. My wife loves poetry and she's very expressive that way. We just got intrigued in that now would be the time to do the stories. We always wanted to get them out. The time that fathers and sons spend together doing this is a really blessed time. The morals that are taught, the glad to do it phrase that comes out of it, we had a blast doing it with our kids, and we wanted to pass it on to other parents so they could do it with their kids. So this class got us going. That was in 2013, actually 2012, and the season rolled over into 2013, and we decided we would find an illustrator, and I went to the Charles County Literary Guild, the Charles County Writers Guild, in February of 2013 to ask if they could show me how to find an illustrator. And there was a picture book guy there, and he said, "Oh, there's a website for that." And that night, I found the illustrator that did our first 7 books. So 2013, and I didn't tell you this when I start. You probably can catch on to it, but my ministry gift is the gift of helps. I like to do things that help people, and writing down stories like this just does that. So I have nothing better to do right now, to tell you the truth. I'm still fully employed. I have about 2 more years to go before I retire completely. But we have been writing and selling these books, particularly in the homeschool community, because that's a market that we know and understand, since 2014.
Okay. Well, you know, I'm going to share this with you, James. You know that we are role models to somebody, whether we like it or not.
That is true.
There are always individuals on the outside looking in at our journey, our steps, and the things that we've done, the things that we're doing. And I'm sure that there are some individuals out there today who are watching your journey, watching your steps, really appreciating what you've done. And they're saying to themselves, James, I wonder what it is that I need to do in order to get on, begin, and maintain my journey. What words of encouragement would you have to share with them today?
The first is whether it's a writing journey or just a journey for the rest of your life, you need to stay plugged in to people who think like you do. For us, that starts with the church. You go to a church and you attend a church and you keep getting reminded over and over that God is the loving, gracious God that he is, even on those days when we don't think he is. And that gives you the motivation to keep going forward. We tell people regularly, God has a plan for your life, and he does. He has a plan for your life. He won't necessarily tell you up front what it is, but as you take your step, we would never have met if I hadn't started this 6 years ago. And now we've met. And who knows what will go on from here. A week ago, talk about God blessing us. You're the second blessing from last week. 2 days before you called me, a friend of mine, called me because he's starting a subscription service for books. He wants to publish good books for families and do it on a book of the month type club basis. And he didn't know parts of the program, and so he gave me a call to pick my brain. And so there's a good possibility my books will get picked up as part of the subscription service he's going to provide. And then 2 days after that, you called. And so in the desert of my life this past year, I've had 2 huge drops of rain show up. So
wow. Well, you know, I'm going to stay focused on those individuals that we may be encouraging today, those that are being just overwhelmed with excitement because of what you're doing. Let's just say one of those individuals make a decision to walk up to James Burd Brewster and tap him on the shoulder and say, you know, James, I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate what you've done over the years, the writing, the book publishing, and everything that you've done in ministry, so on and so forth. But what's next for James Burd Brewster? What would your response be?
Well, we're keeping writing. If I could, I'm going to show you the firefighter book that started this whole thing, because we have grown from firemen to policemen to EMTs, and I'm developing a nurse series this year and next year. They're all first responders who like to help people, and in general, when you thank them, they always just respond with, "I'm glad to do it. I'm just glad I could help out." And that's where we got the "glad to do it" phrase that you see on the link over my shoulder there. Anyone who wants to contact me, I have a contact page at gladtodoit.net. If they're interested in writing books or getting their story out on paper, it's really a very straightforward process to do it. And with the way that the whole publishing industry has changed, people can publish their own books or go through independent presses without the exorbitant costs that they used to have 20 years ago. It's phenomenal. A book can be published now for only your time in writing it, and then a moderate cost of about $150 for someone to design your cover. It's just phenomenal. And so people who have things they want to say, how to better raise kids, how to preach John 3:16 better than their pastor, how to, keep a house better, how to build a boat better, whatever it is they are excited about, you can put it on paper and put it on a professional quality book. It's just amazing.
GladToDoIt.net. GladToDoIt.net. And I am just, again, I'm so excited, for those that don't know, to have James Burd Brewster as one of our featured authors on the GMAP Broadcast Network. We encourage you, stop by GMAP1.com. That's GMAP, the number 1.com. Visit our bookstore, and of course, you will see copies of the covers of the publications that we're showing you on our split screen periodically. It will take you to the necessary location to get more intimate information about the man, about the ministry, and of course the publications that he has been blessed with. You know what I would really like to do? I would really like to show a few copies of your publications on the split screen, and just, if you don't mind, just share a snippet of each publication as I do so. And of course, I think it would be a level of excitement. I know time is going to be of the essence. Again, we thank God for the radio station in Chicago who's allowing us to simulcast. And of course, you all will be able to also grab a copy of the viewing on social media, on YouTube, on Facebook, on GMAP, and so on. If you need that intimate information and you want to find out when and where, just simply reach out to me here at GMAP1.com. We will be honored to give you the necessary information that you need. I want you to just, share with us a little bit about Uncle Rocky, Fireman Fire.
Sure. Uncle Rocky is the uncle to the two nephews coincidentally named Ben and Luke. And in that particular story, they go respond to a fire, and a mom has gotten out, but there's a baby been left inside, but it's okay. She's rescued, and she's asleep the whole time. So mothers of 3- and 4-year-olds who think this might scare their child, it doesn't. At the very end of that story, the mother cries, looks him in the eye, and says, thank you for saving my baby." Rocky looks at her, and then thanks God that he could save the baby, because that's exactly why he became a firefighter. Then he looks her in the eye, he swings his arm across his chest, and he says, "Glad to do it." And every child you read to it will say glad to do it for the rest of their life.
How about Pete Petey kite flying?
That's great. You know how it is when you fly a kite at the beach? It always just nosedives into the ground. Well, say that they go out on a family trip to North Carolina to the beach, and they try it 4 or 5 times, and it just won't work out. And Pete and Petey are frustrated. They go back to Mom at the beach umbrellas for some water, and she says, "How's it going?" "Not good." She says, "How about a kite tail?" And Dad says, "Don't have one." And she takes the sash off from her beach robe, says, "Try this." And sure enough, it works. And at the end, it just flies beautifully.
Moving right along, what about Officer Jack underwater?
Absolutely made very fast, quick book. So at our first show, someone told us a real story, and we used it for our face mask story. And ever since then, all of our stories are real stories acted out by our character. This took place in New Zealand. A car went into the water, and in 90 seconds it sunk. These two officers were there on site when it happened, and in 90 seconds they got her out of the car by smashing out the back window. So Officer Jack, the senior officer, is African American. His new partner, Officer Kate, white female, is the team that successfully patrols and protects the people of their area in Hamilton Township.
Wow. Man, I tell you, heroes of the Coast Guard.
The Coast Guard was responsible for developing the helicopter in World War II with Sikorsky, and our Coast Guard officer, Erickson, because he had a helicopter, actually performed the very first life flight. A ship had blown up in New York Harbor, and all the injured were in Sandy Hook, New Jersey, and it was a howling snowstorm. And he flew his helicopter from Brooklyn to Manhattan to pick up blood plasma, and then flew it across the harbor to Sandy Hook, New Jersey, and therefore became the father of all life flights. That's a fourth grade and up story for readers.
Wow. Man, I tell you, I am just so excited that you are blessing the people, you are encouraging the people, young and old. And
you are too kind.
Hey,
you are. And I'm excited for them to get the books and enjoy them. Like I said, I've got a contact form at gladtodoit.net. If you want me to sign your books, just send me an email through that, and we can work out ordering them through me directly as opposed to going to Amazon.com. But
wow.
Anyways.
Well, I have been continuously showing additional book covers in our split screen on our television screen platform on the GMAP Broadcast Network, and we again thank God for you. For those that would like to show their love, care, concern, and support for the publications that you have been able to provide for people around the world, what's the process to do so? I mean, is there a particular location that you would like for them to go and maybe purchase the books, or what's the process to do that?
Yeah, particularly for the old books, Amazon makes it very hard to find republished books. So the best thing to do is to go to gladtodoit.net, where you can find every single one of the books. There's a buy button next to the one you would prefer. It will take you to Amazon.com to actually order it. In that particular case, I can't sign them. If you would actually like to buy a bunch of books or a collection or something like that and want them signed, just email me through the gladtodoit.net form, and then I can take it out of the stock I keep here in the house, sign them, and mail to you directly, and we'll work out PayPal or something like that.
Now, what about those individuals that would like to possibly reach out to you directly, maybe on a more personal level? Is there a contact number, website? Well, I know there's a website, email, phone number. What's the best way to reach out and connect with James Burd Brewster?
I tell you, the best way is to go to the gladtodoit.net site and go to the contact form there. It's my site that all comes directly to me, and that's usually how we first make contact with people. I'm pretty open with my information after that. There's nothing secret about this, but the easiest way to manage it is to go to gladtodoit.net and use the contact form.
Wow. Well, again, gladtodoit.net, author James Burd Brewster, featured author here on the GMAP Broadcast Network, always ready, willing, and able to reach out and be a blessing to you around the world. And of course, this is the beginning of many. This is the first of so many weeks ahead, months ahead, years ahead that you will be hearing from this awesome young man, this author. We look forward to allowing God to continuously use us to maintain our presence during your journey. What I'd like to do, James, we appreciate the radio station in Chicago allowing us this simulcast.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for that. There's so many other great things to look forward to. I would love it if you would share your closing remarks as we prepare to continue to move forward with our day via the GMAP Broadcast Network. We can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule on today, away from your writing, to chat with us here at the GMAP Broadcast Network. I'm going to move over and say, James Burd Brewster, the floor is yours.
Kevin, thank you so very much for reaching out to us and bringing us on board. We do look to being blessed by this in the future and a long-term relationship with you. I just like to tell people that everyone does have a story inside of them waiting to come out, and it's okay to let it come out. And the first thing you do is you put something down on paper. If it stays in your head, no one can help you with it. But the minute you put something, bullets, paragraphs, chapters, words, thoughts, concepts, as soon as it's on paper or on your computer, someone else can help you with the rest of the details and make your story come alive.
Awesome. James, we appreciate you. We look forward to hearing more and more from you in the upcoming weeks, months, and years. Continue to do what it is that God has blessed you to do. Send my love out to your family, your wife. Send my love out to
Thank
all
you.
of those.
Yep.
And right now, I just want to ask God to continue to bless you according to His will. As a matter of fact, I'm going to ask Him to bless everyone that is connected with you. We thank Him, we praise Him, and we worship Him on this day. We want you to continue to be blessed and continue to be a blessing, okay?
Thank you very, very much.
You have a wonderful afternoon. Until next time, God bless you. Take care. Take it easy. If it's good to you, take it twice. God bless you.
Thank you, Kevin.